My mother-in-law threw me out with my newborn. She started crying when the police arrived. The rain soaked my hair and my nightgown as my mother-in-law shoved the door shut behind me. My newborn son screamed against my chest, his tiny body shaking with every gust of wind. I was still bleeding from childbirth. My legs felt weak, but she didn't care. "You're not welcome here anymore," she said, her voice sharp like glass. "You embarrass this family." I begged her to wait until my husband came back, but she laughed and tossed my diaper bag onto the porch like trash. The porch light flickered, barely lighting the wet steps beneath my bare feet. I stood there stunned, holding my baby while the rain soaked us both. The door stayed closed. No apology. No hesitation. Just silence. That was the moment my life split in two. If you believe family betrayal stories like this should be told, hit subscribe now for more true revenge stories. Because what happened next was only the beginning. I stood under the porch light, shaking, my arms aching as I tried to calm my son. Milk soaked through my shirt, mixing with rain and tears. My body still hurt from labor, every breath burning. I knocked once, then twice. No answer. Through the window, I saw her shadow move away. She didn't even look back. Cars passed by, their headlights sliding over me like I didn't exist. I felt invisible, erased. I kept whispering to my baby that it would be okay, even though I didn't believe myself. My phone was in my pocket, but my hands shook too much to dial. I couldn't understand how a woman who smiled at my baby hours earlier could turn so cruel. My knees buckled, and I sank onto the wet step, holding my son close. That porch light felt like a spotlight on my shame. I didn't know yet that this moment would later save me. I finally called my husband, my fingers numb and slow. It rang until voicemail. I tried again. Nothing. I left a message, my voice breaking, telling him I was outside with our baby and didn't know where to go. No reply came. Hours later, I would learn he was on a business trip. She had planned this for when he was gone. Every detail felt too perfect to be sudden. The bag she packed for me had only baby items, nothing of mine. No wallet, no keys, no documents. She wanted me helpless. My baby cried harder, his face red and tight. I rocked him, pacing the porch to keep warm. I wondered if this was how people disappeared quietly. Pushed out, forgotten, blamed. I didn't know who to trust anymore. The house behind me felt like it had swallowed my past. I finally walked away, each step heavy, afraid of what waited ahead. I ended up at the hospital because I didn't know where else to go. The security guard saw my soaked clothes and trembling hands and waved me inside without questions. A nurse wrapped me in a warm blanket and took my baby gently, checking his breathing. I sat on a hard bench in the lobby, staring at the floor while my body shook. The lights were too bright. The room smelled like soap and coffee. The nurse came back and placed my son in my arms again. "He's okay," she said softly. Then she looked at my face and frowned. "You don't look okay." The words broke something inside me. I told her everything in pieces. The door, the rain, the silence. She squeezed my hand and said, "People like that always get caught." I didn't believe her then, but I held on to those words like a promise. My phone buzzed while I sat on the bench. It was a message from her. Not my husband. Her. "Don't make this worse for my son," it read. I stared at the screen, my chest burning. Worse. As if being thrown out with a newborn wasn't already unbearable. She didn't ask where we were. She didn't ask if the baby was okay. She only cared about control. I typed a reply, then erased it. Anything I said could be used against me. I learned that quickly. The nurse brought me water and helped me stand. My legs felt weak, but I forced myself upright. I couldn't fall apart. Not now. Not with my baby watching me with wide, confused eyes. That message told me something important. This wasn't panic. This was planning. She thought I would stay quiet. She thought fear would keep me small. She was wrong. I spent that night on my friend Leah's couch. She didn't ask questions. She just took the baby, warmed a bottle, and let me cry until my chest hurt. Her apartment was small, but it felt safe. Every sound made me jump. Every cry for my son reminded me that I had lost my home. The house I cleaned, cooked in, and raised my family in was no longer mine. I stared at the ceiling, listening to rain hit the window. Leah sat beside me and said, "You can stay as long as you need." I nodded, but shame burned inside me. I was older. I should have known better. I should have seen this coming. But I trusted family. I trusted love. That night, I promised my son I would protect him, even if I had to stand alone. I didn't know how yet, but I would find a way. The rumors started fast. My phone filled with messages from relatives. "We heard you left him. Why would you run off with the baby?" My stomach twisted as I read them. She had told everyone her version first. In her story, I was jealous, unstable, ungrateful. She said I abandoned her son and took the baby out of spite. No one asked me what happened. They had already decided. I wanted to scream the truth, but my voice felt trapped inside me. Leah told me to save every message. "Don't explain yet," she said. "Watch who shows their true face." I did. Some people disappeared. Others sent cruel words disguised as concern. I learned who believed lies easily. I learned who stayed silent. That silence hurt the most. I held my baby close and realized this fight wasn't just about me anymore. The next morning, my debit card declined at the pharmacy. I tried again. Declined. My hands shook as I checked my balance online. The account was frozen. A note said access was restricted by request. I knew immediately who did it. She had convinced my husband to pause funds until things calmed down. I had no money, no home, and a newborn in my arms. I felt dizzy. Leah paid for the medicine without a word. I cried in the car afterward, anger rising through fear. This wasn't just cruelty. It was control. She wanted me desperate, dependent, silent. I opened my notes app and started writing everything down.
Dates.
Messages.
Times.
If she was building a story, I would build one too. Only mine would be true. Legal aid felt cold and rushed. The lawyer skimmed my story and sighed. "Without proof of abuse or force. She can say you left on your own," he said. The words crushed me. I wanted to shout that rain and newborns and locked doors were proof. But the law wanted more. "Start gathering evidence," he added gently. "Texts, recordings, anything." I nodded, my jaw tight. I left feeling smaller, but also clearer. Evidence. That was the key. On the walk back to Leah's place, my mind replayed that night. The porch. The door. The shove. Then I remembered something. Leah's doorbell camera. It faced the entrance. It recorded everything. My heart started pounding, not with fear, but with hope. Leah helped me pull up the footage that evening. There it was. Me holding my baby, the rain pouring down. Her face twisted with anger as she shoved me out. The sound of my baby crying. The door slamming. I watched it over and over, tears running down my face. That video didn't lie. It showed everything she denied. Leah squeezed my shoulder and said, "This changes things." I saved the file in 3 places.
Cloud.
USB. Email. I named it carefully and backed it up again. For the first time since that night, I slept without shaking. I knew then that she had made one mistake. She thought no one was watching, but the camera saw her. And soon everyone else would too. I watched the video again the next morning, this time without crying. I forced myself to look closely. The timestamp, the sound, the way she grabbed the diaper bag like it belonged to her. I noticed details I missed before, like how she looked over her shoulder before pushing me, making sure no neighbors were watching. That told me this wasn't sudden anger. It was planned. I sent a copy to an email she didn't know about and labeled it clearly. Then I wrote down everything I remembered from that night while it was still fresh. The words poured out faster than I expected. Writing gave me control again. My son slept beside me, his tiny chest rising and falling. I touched his hand and promised I wouldn't let anyone treat us like trash. I didn't know how long this fight would last, but I knew one thing for sure. I was done being quiet. She called that afternoon. I didn't answer at first. My hands shook as I stared at the screen. Leah nodded at me and whispered, "Put it on speaker." I pressed answer. Her voice was sharp and demanding. "You need to bring my grandson home," she said. "No hello. No concern. Just orders." I asked her to repeat that. She did, louder this time, saying the baby didn't belong with someone unstable. I stayed calm, even when my heart raced. I asked simple questions, letting her talk. She said I embarrassed the family. She said I was unfit. She said she had rights. Every word was recorded. When I hung up, I felt sick but steady. I saved the file and backed it up twice. Leah hugged me and said, "She's digging her own hole." I finally believed it. The more she talked, the more power she gave me. 2 days later, a hospital bill arrived at Leah's apartment with my name on it. My hands shook as I opened it. It wasn't mine. It was for a private hospital stay the week before I gave birth. The insurance listed was mine. My stomach dropped. She had used my policy, without telling me. I called the billing office, my voice tight. They confirmed it. The signature authorizing treatment wasn't mine. I asked for copies of everything. Forms.
Dates.
Signatures. The woman on the phone hesitated, then said quietly, "This doesn't look right." When I hung up, my fear turned into anger. This wasn't just family drama anymore. This was fraud. I added the bill to my growing folder and wrote another note.
Time.
Evidence.
Pattern.
She wasn't protecting her son. She was protecting control. And she was getting sloppy. A knock came that afternoon. My heart nearly stopped when I opened the door and saw a woman with a badge and clipboard. She said she was from social services. Someone had reported concerns about my ability to care for my child. My knees felt weak, but I stepped aside and let her in. I told the truth. All of it. She watched as I fed my baby, changed him, and soothed him when he cried. Then I showed her the video. She didn't interrupt.
She didn't blink.
When it ended, her face changed completely. She asked for copies and wrote notes quickly. "Keep everything," she said firmly. "You'll need it." She explained that false reports were taken seriously. Before leaving, she looked me in the eye and said, "You did nothing wrong." I closed the door and slid to the floor, shaking. She had tried to take my child from me. That line could never be uncrossed. After the social worker left, I noticed something missing. My wedding ring. I checked my bag, my pockets, the bathroom sink. It was gone. I remember taking it off at the hospital when my hands swelled. She must have taken it while I was in labor. The thought made my chest ache. That ring wasn't just gold. It was proof. Proof I belonged there.
Proof I was married.
I reported it missing immediately and added it to my list. Theft. Possession.
Pattern.
Every small act added up. I realized she wasn't just pushing me out. She was trying to erase me. I looked at my sleeping son and felt something hard settle inside me. This wasn't about winning anymore. It was about stopping her. I would not let her rewrite my life or steal my child's future. I went to the bank in person the next day. The manager looked uncomfortable when he pulled up the account. He leaned closer and whispered, "Your joint account was changed to single owner yesterday." I felt dizzy. "By who?" I asked. He swallowed. "Your mother-in-law. She used a power of attorney." My hands clenched. I asked to see it. When he showed me the document, my breath caught. The signature was wrong. The date was wrong. Everything about it felt fake. The manager rubbed his forehead and said, "If this is forged, it's serious." I asked for copies of everything and left shaking. Outside, I sat in my car and cried, not from fear, but from relief. She had crossed into something she couldn't undo. This wasn't manipulation anymore. This was a crime. And now I had proof. The legal aid lawyer's tone changed when I showed him the documents. He leaned forward, reading every line slowly. "This is forgery," he said, "and identity misuse." His eyes met mine. "This gives you leverage." For the first time, someone spoke to me like I wasn't powerless. He helped me organize my evidence into a clear timeline. Videos,
Calls. Bills.
bank records. Everything pointed to one thing: control. I felt stronger walking out of that office than I had in weeks. That night, my husband finally called. He sounded angry, confused, defensive. He said I had run off. I told him I wanted to meet. He agreed.
I didn't argue.
I didn't explain. I just said, "Come see what really happened." I packed my folder carefully and kissed my son's head. Tomorrow, the lies would meet the truth. He arrived the next evening, tired and irritated. He didn't hug me. He didn't look at the baby right away. He started talking about stress and misunderstandings. I waited. When he finished, I pulled out my phone and pressed play. The video filled the room. The rain, the shove, the screaming baby, his face drained of color. He sat down slowly, rubbing his hands together. "She didn't mean it," he said weakly. I played the phone call next. Then I showed him the bank papers, the hospital bill, the forged signature. Silence stretched between us. He finally looked at our son and started to cry. I felt no relief, only sadness. He wasn't angry at her. He was afraid of her. That told me everything I needed to know. He stayed quiet after that. Too quiet. He said he needed time to think. I realized then that I was alone in this marriage.
He wouldn't protect me.
He wouldn't stand up to her. Asked him to leave. He didn't argue. When the door closed behind him, I felt lighter and heavier at the same time. I filed a police report the next morning. Assault.
Fraud.
Identity misuse. The officer listened carefully and nodded. "We see this more than you think," he said. He took copies of everything and gave me a case number. Walking out of the station, I felt scared but steady. I was no longer reacting. I was acting. And that made all the difference. That night, she showed up with flowers. Her face was soft, her voice sweet. "Let's forget this drama," she said. I invited her inside. My phone recorded from my pocket. She talked about family, forgiveness, starting fresh. Then she slipped. She said I should drop the reports before things got worse. I asked her what she meant. She smiled thinly and said, "You don't want trouble." I thanked her for the flowers and walked her out. When the door closed, my hands shook. I saved the recording and backed it up again. She thought tears could erase evidence. She thought silence meant safety. She was wrong. Very soon, she would learn what happens when you push a quiet woman too far. I filed the police report quietly, without drama. The officer asked careful questions and typed while I spoke. I showed him the videos, the bank papers, the hospital bill, and the recordings. He nodded slowly, not surprised. "This is a pattern," he said, "and patterns matter." He explained the next steps and warned me not to confront her again. I left the station holding my baby tighter than ever. Outside, the sky was clear, but my chest still felt heavy. I knew this wasn't over. She wouldn't stop just because I involved the law. Control like hers didn't fade quietly. That night, my husband texted once. "We need to talk." I didn't reply. Talking hadn't protected me before. Evidence had. I slept lightly, listening for sounds that never came. For the first time, I wasn't waiting for permission to survive. I was preparing to fight. She tried again the next afternoon. This time she cried. Real tears, practiced pauses, soft voice. She said she was sorry. She said she only acted out of fear. I said nothing and let her talk. My phone recorded every word. She slipped again, saying she only froze the account to teach me a lesson. Lesson? I asked her to explain. She stammered and changed the subject. When she left, I felt drained but calm. I sent the recording to my lawyer. He replied with one sentence. "This helps." I began to understand something important. She didn't see me as a person. I was a problem to manage, a risk to control. That made it easier to stop hoping she would change. Hope had kept me quiet for too long. I focused instead on timing, on patience, on letting her believe she was still in charge. That belief would be her biggest mistake. She invited everyone to a family dinner that weekend. "For peace," she said. I agreed. My lawyer raised an eyebrow but nodded. "Bring your evidence," he advised. I packed my USB carefully and charged my laptop. The house smelled the same when I arrived. Familiar. False. Relatives smiled awkwardly. Some avoided my eyes. She hugged me too tightly and whispered, "Let's be adults." Dinner was loud and tense. Halfway through dessert, she stood up and cleared her throat. She began talking about sacrifice, about how hard it was when someone ran off with a baby. Heads turned toward me. My heart raced, but my hands stayed steady. I stood up slowly and placed my laptop on the table. "Before we continue," I said, "there's something everyone should see." The room fell silent. She laughed nervously and tried to wave it off. "This isn't the time," she said. I pressed play. The video filled the room.
Rain.
Screaming. Her shove. Gasps followed. Someone covered their mouth. She lunged for the laptop, but my husband grabbed her arm and held her back. Her face twisted with panic. The recording ended, but I didn't stop. I played the phone call. Then the bank documents appeared on screen. No one spoke. The truth sat heavy on the table. I closed the laptop and looked around. Some faces were pale. Others were angry. She sank into her chair, shaking. That was when I knew. The story she built was falling apart. And this was only the beginning. An hour later, the police arrived. I hadn't called them. Someone else had. 2 officers stepped inside, calm and direct. They asked her to sit down. She began crying loudly, saying it was a family misunderstanding. One officer asked about the power of attorney, the forged signature, the frozen account. Her crying stopped. They asked to see her safe. She hesitated. That hesitation said everything. When the documents were found, the room felt colder. She looked at me with disbelief, as if I had betrayed her. I felt nothing. Not anger. Not joy. Just calm. This was the moment the balance shifted. She wasn't in control anymore. Evidence was. As they read her rights, her voice broke. For the first time, she wasn't directing the story. She was trapped inside it. She was taken away that night. The house emptied slowly, people leaving in silence. My husband stood in the kitchen, staring at the floor. He didn't defend her. He didn't apologize to me either. I realized then that silence was his choice. And silence was an answer. Over the next few days, everything moved fast. The bank reversed the account changes. The insurance company opened an investigation. Social services closed the false report and noted harassment. The police called with updates. Charges were being considered. Friends I hadn't heard from reached out quietly. Some apologized. Others said nothing. I didn't chase explanations. I focused on my son, on feeding him, rocking him, breathing again. Justice didn't arrive loudly. It arrived piece by piece. And each piece felt like ground returning beneath my feet. The power of attorney was confirmed forged. The bank manager testified. The hospital flagged the insurance misuse. Each truth stacked on the next. She tried to claim confusion, stress, love. None of it worked. Her lawyer stopped returning calls. The family stopped defending her. Her world shrank quickly. Mine grew clearer. The court granted me temporary sole custody and a restraining order. The judge said calmly, "No child belongs in a home where their mother is treated this way." I held my baby close and cried for the first time in weeks. Not from pain, from release. I walked out of that courtroom taller than I had walked in. I wasn't invisible anymore. I was seen. And believed. Local news picked up the story. The headline hurt to read, but it told the truth. Her phone stopped ringing. Her friends disappeared. Control needs an audience. Without one, it collapses. She sent messages begging me to stop. I didn't reply. My lawyer released a short statement about protecting mothers and children. It spread fast. Women I didn't know reached out with their own stories. I realized I wasn't alone. Not anymore. She had tried to break me in silence. Instead, she gave me a voice. The custody decision became final. Full custody. Long-term restraining order. No unsupervised contact. The judge didn't hesitate. My husband stood quietly beside his lawyer. When asked to speak, he said nothing. That silence closed our marriage. I filed for divorce the next day. I felt no anger, just certainty. I packed what little remained of my old life and moved into a small apartment near a park. It wasn't big, but it was mine. Every morning, sunlight filled the room. My son slept peacefully. Safety felt better than comfort ever had. She wrote me a letter weeks later, apologizing, explaining, begging. I just wanted control of my family, she wrote. Control. The word echoed. I folded the letter and put it away. No response. Some things don't deserve answers. If this story made your heart race, subscribe now for more true revenge stories where justice actually wins. Because this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something better. My new apartment overlooked a small park with tall trees and cracked walking paths. It wasn't fancy, but it was quiet. Every morning, I opened the curtains and let the sun touch my son's face as he slept. That light felt like freedom. I bought secondhand furniture and cooked simple meals. Each small choice belonged to me. No one questioned my spending. No one watched my steps. At night, I sat on the balcony and listened to the city breathe. I was still tired, still healing, but I felt safe. That mattered more than anything I had lost. I realized something important during those quiet days. I wasn't rebuilding my old life. I was building a new one, brick by brick, with truth instead of fear. My son smiled more.
So did I.
And that told me I was finally moving in the right direction. Weeks later, another letter arrived. Her handwriting was shaky this time. She begged me to drop the charges. She said she was lonely. She said she missed her grandson. She said she didn't mean for things to go so far. I read it once and set it down. The words didn't move me. I understood now that apologies without change were just another form of control. She wanted relief, not forgiveness. I took the letter to my lawyer and added it to the file. He nodded and said, "You're doing exactly what you should." That night, I slept deeply. No nightmares. No sudden waking. Just rest. For the first time since the rain-soaked porch, my body believed I was safe. That was a victory she could never take from me. My lawyer released a short public statement about the case. It was calm and clear. It said mothers deserve safety, even from their own families. It spread faster than I expected. Messages poured in from women I had never met. They shared stories of being pushed out, silenced, blamed. Some cried. Some thanked me. I answered a few when I could. I realized my pain had meaning beyond me. That gave it purpose. The support felt strange at first. I wasn't used to being believed so easily. But I accepted it.
Slowly. Carefully.
I joined an online group for mothers rebuilding after family betrayal. We shared tips, laughs, and tears. I wasn't alone anymore. And neither were they. The settlement came quietly. She returned every dollar. Signed the agreement. Promised to stay away. Justice with paperwork was still justice. I didn't feel joy when it ended. I felt peace. Her family reached out next. Some apologized. Some offered help. Babysitting. Money. Support. I thanked them and declined. Their guilt wasn't my responsibility. My responsibility was forward, not back. I focused on my son's milestones. His laugh. His first crawl. His curiosity. Each moment felt earned. I stopped checking my phone constantly. I stopped flinching at knocks. My shoulders relaxed. I was learning how to live without fear again. I started a small business from home a few months later. Handmade items, simple but honest. I named it after my son. Every sale felt like proof that I could stand on my own. Customers left kind notes.
Some knew my story.
Some didn't. It didn't matter. What mattered was that I was building something with my own hands. Just like before. Only this time, it was truly mine. I worked during nap times and packed orders at night. It was hard, but it was honest work. And honest work felt healing. Each box I shipped felt like a small promise kept. To myself. To my child. Her relatives stopped calling after a while. The silence felt clean. I didn't miss the tension. I didn't miss the pretending. I realized revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't yelling or anger. It was living well without them. It was peace they couldn't touch. I walked through the park with my son and breathed deeply. The air smelled like fresh grass and new beginnings. I smiled more easily now. I trusted myself again. That trust was hard-won. And it was precious. One afternoon, she showed up outside my building with flowers. I watched from the window as she waited. My heart beat fast, but my hands stayed steady. I went downstairs and stepped outside, closing the door behind me. I didn't invite her in. She started crying, saying she just wanted to see the baby. I looked at her calmly and said, "You're trespassing." The word surprised her. She stepped back like it burned. I repeated it once more. She left without another word. I stood there until she was gone. Then I went inside and held my son. I felt strong. Not angry.
Strong.
That evening, I stood on the balcony again, holding my son close. The air was cool. The city lights flickered below. I thought about the rain that night, the porch, the fear. It felt far away now, like a story I had survived. I whispered to my son that he was safe, that we were safe. And for the first time, I believed it completely. My breath came easy. My chest didn't hurt. I had learned something important. Strength doesn't shout. It stands firm. Life settled into a steady rhythm. Doctor visits.
Playtime.
Work. Sleep. I stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. It never did. Peace stayed. I realized revenge didn't need anger. It needed truth, evidence, patience. I had all three, and I used them well. My son grew. I healed. The past lost its grip on me. I didn't forget. I just moved forward. She thought throwing me out would erase me. Instead, it recorded her downfall. When the police arrived and she burst into tears, I understood something clearly. Revenge doesn't need hate. It needs proof. It needs courage. And it needs time. I had all of that. And now I had my life back. If this story stayed with you, like the video, subscribe for more powerful revenge stories, and tell me in the comments what part hit you the hardest.